That's right. It's time for another riveting edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. A riveting edition after a riveting end to the season. It just makes sense. With you, as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is the columnist for the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're going to talk about just how bad this offense has been. No Patrick Mahomes has meant no offense for the Kansas City Chiefs. What to take away from that? Did the use show anything in this game against the Raiders? Travis Kelce's career, is it over? Should it be over? How will it continue if it does? Andy Reid looking for familiar names in coaches. Matt Nagy could be leaving. Steve Spagnuolo's interviewing for head coaching jobs. Connor Embry is not going to be back as a wide receiver coach. How will they handle this from a coaching move? And John Harbaugh moving on for the Ravens. Been there for a while. He was the second most tenured coach. Andy Reid is the third most tenured coach in the NFL. I think I got that right. How does this change things? What should the Chiefs take away from it? We'll talk about that right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. I do appreciate it as we get things rolling here on the wrap-up of the regular season edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold. And Jeff, let's start right there. Takeaway from the poor offensive play again from the Kansas City Chiefs. 3 games without Patrick Mahomes, all were disasters offensively. What is the takeaway for how bad the offense was? I mean, I get it. You know there's going to be a big drop-off. That's not what we're saying. But it was like completely non-existent.
Well, I mean, at this stage, I mean, they're playing without so many key players, and they're so far down the road of clearly trying to get a good draft pick that I don't know if you can take away anything from this game, but I would think the compilation of these 3 games without him, I think has been telling. I mean, look, I've said it for the last 2-3 years about the talent level, the individual talent, and unfortunately, people had to see it in real time. And if anything, the takeaway should be the Chiefs, Brett Veach, Andy Reid, people on that staff need to look at this team and say, okay, now we know what we're really working with here. And now we know how much we're really asking of Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, has not played great either over the last 3 years. And so I think that should be the takeaway, is that they have to improve the talent. I do believe this process is probably going to be 2 years of trying to rebuild a core, because so many of these guys who are here, including these guys who we have not seen play a whole lot of, you have to question if 2027, 28, if anybody that you saw on that field over the last 3 games is going to be around here at that point.
It's interesting. I mean, because one of the things it kind of said to me, you mentioned one of the things you said there was how bad that Patrick Mahomes, I don't want you to say he played bad, hasn't played great. Yeah. And one of my takeaways, Sam, was that how could anybody play great? Yeah. This is what it looks like when he's not out there. I don't know. Maybe this is, and I think we kind of joked about it. One of them. This is the strongest, statement for him being MVP. Is just like he made him look serviceable for 6 weeks. You pointed out they were the best offense in football for a little 6-week period. How do they do it with these guys? That was something I think jumps off the screen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I thought Chris Oladokun, Gardner Minshew, and Shane Buechele made Patrick Mahomes' job look just about impossible to win in that spot. And you mentioned, I mean, there's obviously going to be a drop off. Like your QB1 should be better than your QB2. None of us needed proof that Patrick Mahomes was a great quarterback. But should it have been that bad for 3 games? They scored 1 touchdown in 3 games. I was crunching some numbers on this today, and over 3 games, their yards per play was 2.99 yards per play. It is the worst 3-game span of any NFL team all year. Like, should you be the worst NFL team when Patrick Mahomes isn't on the field and, you didn't have a receiver, you didn't have tackles, but other teams win with backup quarterbacks. In week 18 and in situations where teams started somebody because their QB1 was unavailable, Quentin Ewers doesn't count because they decided he was their best option, right? But Riley Leonard does count because he's playing because Daniel Jones is hurt, as is Oladokin. Other backup quarterbacks in week 18 went 4-4. Other backup quarterbacks in week 17 went 4-4. Those teams were they were better, more than twice the points per game that the Chiefs put up, almost twice the yards per game. And so what's the difference? It's what Jeff said. They haven't given Patrick Mahomes a whole lot of help. And I think a lot of that is very specific to the running game. I thought Andy Reid's most interesting, perhaps his only interesting answer on Monday was when I had asked him about just running the ball and how that affected the passing game. And he said, I look at the play action and teams were not responding to our play action. They didn't respect it. Well, that's a way you can help the quarterback. The adage that the running game is the quarterback's best friend, I think that showed up more without Patrick Mahomes as much as it did in the 14 games with him.
Yeah, I mean,
you had nowhere else to go once Mahomes was out. These other teams have somewhere else to go when their quarterback is out.
Right. By the way, Dom said, how are we forgetting how bad the offense was in 23?
I'm not.
Trust me. But it wasn't this. That's the point. I mean, like, I do think that, this was the one that hammered home the point that, okay, it's a problem. But Jeff, I mean, this is the quarterback tax, right? When you give the big contract to the quarterback, you don't have as much money to spend elsewhere. Then for them, this is also the highest paid center in football tax, the highest paid guard in football tax. Like, when you have all these big contracts all over the place, it gets difficult. And when you do lose, like, so much of it was built on Patrick Mahomes. I mean, to me, it validates, I think we've joked about it a number of times, the Tom Moore statement about why Peyton Manning took all the reps in practice. Because if 18 goes down, we're effed. And we don't practice effed. I mean, there is an element of, like, when you sell your soul to that quarterback, and when he goes down, you're screwed. The idea that you're going to play well, or, we'll just tread water for a little bit. Not this team. I mean, they sunk like a rock.
Well, and look, I mean, some of this, and we go back to 23 and last year as well, it's not just the talent, but it is the hubris that lets Andy Reid and his coaches believe we can just scheme it up. No matter who's out there, we got the quarterback who can make it happen if things don't work out, and we can just scheme up everybody else. And the reality is, Sam just said it, they had nothing else to lean on when he was gone. Like, if you're the 49ers, they leaned on Christian McCaffrey. I'm watching Jawan Jennings out there, who's literally their third best receiver, and he's making plays for them. I'm watching other teams do this week in and week out. I just don't. Again, they've gotten away with this for a long time, and I say Mahomes' numbers bear. He has not played at a Mahomes level in a long time. That's the point I'm making. He was good. He wasn't great. And I said this on TV the other day, that their stars didn't play like stars. Their stars had good years. They weren't great. And when that wasn't happening, that was the biggest reason why they plummeted, because their stars have been masking all this stuff for the last 3 years.
So Jeff, is it a flawed concept? Is the stars and Jags not work anymore? We talked about it a lot in defense, and Sam, we talk about it with you even back in the days when we had Eric on before you took over for him. And he was always big on defense is a, no weak link. Like, you're better off to just not have any weak links. Is that becoming true of offense as well? That, like, I hear what you're saying, but is the idea of just having some stars around the quarterback, is that now functionally broken as far as a personnel approach?
Yeah. I just think the running game was the worst in the NFL. And I think when you cannot run the ball, it affects everything in a way that I think Look, when you've passed the ball your way to Super Bowl championships, I think you believe that that's all you need to do is pass the ball to Super Bowl championships. But there's a reason that the passing game works. It's because teams respect your running game, and nobody respected what the Chiefs did in the running game. And I don't need to mention all the stats again, but they're terrible at explosives. They don't avoid tackles. Teams play the pass against them more than anybody in the league, and they still don't have a high yards per carry outside of the quarterback when he scrambles. And when that happens, and everyone can just sit back and put an extra little guy in the field and just expect the pass and not react to play action, suddenly what you do well becomes really, really hard as well. And to me, that's what these 3 games proved. If you only have to play the pass against Shane Buechele and Chris Oladokun and Gardner Minshew, I mean, that's easy. That winds up with 1 touchdown in 3 games.
Yeah, and I'm not going to really – I understand the quarterback tax point of this, but Matthew Stafford's expensive. They got a great offense. Josh Allen's expensive. They got pretty good offense.
One of these backup quarterbacks who won was Tyler Huntley played in a pretty darn big game in Week 17 and beat the Packers. And by the way, Malik Willis played. And those are 2 teams who are paying their quarterback quite a bit of money.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you can get better play for the backup quarterback. And but Jeff, is it? Are we finding out that Patrick Mahomes covers up a bad? I don't want to say bad, but an outdated or a stale or a scheme that at least needs to be freshened. I mean, was this more an indictment on Andy Reid's quote unquote offense than it was maybe necessarily the personnel?
Yeah, I mean, going back to whoever made the point about 23, if you go back to 23, they won their championship because of defense. I mean, Mahomes was great when he had to be great, but their defense was the biggest reason they won the championship. They don't have that defense, they're not winning the championship that year. Last year, they got away with a lot of stuff in some close games, and they got exposed in the Super Bowl. But this is the year when coaching caught up. And you saw how measurably it caught up, because not just within this division, but around the conference, around the NFL, you saw what other teams were doing. And it looked a lot different than what the Chiefs have been doing the last couple of years, the last 3 years. And Sam's right. I mean, their run game is a big part of this, because running the football is a huge part of offensive football again. And Andy Reid has historically been around a 30%, 33% running the football kind of guy. And he's going to have to think long and hard about, how do I get up and be into like a 40, 45, 47% guy. I know he did that some last year when they had Kareem and they had to really manufacture some stuff. But that's got to be a big part of who they are moving forward, because they have to make life easier for Patrick Mahomes. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think when you say that, the first reaction is, wow, you want to give the ball to Patrick Mahomes less? It's like, no, I want to give it to him when he's most effective. And this is the way to make him the most effective, is to make teams feel like if we play all the little guys on the field, that they're just going to run for 8, 9, 10 yards. And every once in a while, they might run for 25, because that's what else doesn't happen with the Chiefs. I think I love success rate. Their success rate is inflated in a way that to me is misleading, because a lot of times if you're going to continue to run for successful runs, for example, one of those is going to break. Every once in a while, that 5-yard run is actually going to be – that little success tally is not going to be 5 yards. It's going to be 25. They don't get any of those. Isaiah Pacheco finished the year with his highest run at 16 yards. Teams don't care if once a year they give up a 16-yard run. They don't care. That's not going to affect the way they play defense.
I do think there are a couple things that are on the scheme and the talent, on all of it. But when you don't convert on third down, you can have a 1-yard run. Like you said, you can have 25 and then 5 and then 5, but then you go 1 and 2, and now you're 3rd and 7, and the pass has to convert. If it doesn't convert, you come off the field and you can't give it again. If you have a 1 and a 2 and the next one's going to be a 25, but you don't convert the 3rd and 7, you don't get to the 25, right? So I think there's problems in the passing game as well. Plus, we keep talking about how they're in a light box. How are you going to get a long run when they're dropping 8? Okay, I've cleared 5 yards. Yes, and here comes the cavalry.
How about forcing a missed tackle?
Oh, I'm with you. I to me, we're not is running back a problem? Yes. I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, yeah, I know. Trust me, I know you're not arguing that the running backs are good.
I'm 100% in agreement on that.
I'm
actually saying after watching 17 Chiefs games, you've forgotten that you can break a tackle in the open field at some point.
Yeah, it's allowed.
Well, watching them would make you forget it, right? Like you think.
Yes. And by the way, they have linemen who can move, and like Creed Humphrey can move, Trey Smith can move, and there's no advantage to them being able to move because the running backs don't run well in space.
Yeah, they're expensive. They're supposed to be good, right? Like, so look, they've got a lot to fix. There's no doubt about it. All right, we want to talk about the youth. Did we see anything out of the youth? We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
This episode of Red, Gold, and Bold is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
All right, did we see anything from the youth in this game, Jeff? Did anything jump at you? We saw them actually play some of the younger players. Did anybody pop for you?
I mean, Brashard Smith had some flashes. I mean, certainly he did some stuff. You mean offense and defense, or just offense?
I'll take any of them.
Okay. I mean, Noah Williams was probably to me the most impressive young guy on the field. I mean, he was so good. It was like, I can't believe they couldn't find a spot for a guy. Cornerback and edge rusher are probably the two easiest places to put guys on the field when they're young and don't know what they're doing. And for Steve Spagnuolo not to find some kind of opportunity for him, he played well enough to where I said the McDuffie debate about trading him or paying him is not really a debate anymore. They got to keep good enough to go play, and they can find someone to play slot corner. It's just he was the guy that stood out the most to me.
Yeah. How about you? Any of the young guys pop for you, Sam? Anything you want to add? Noel Williams was 6 tackles, had a sack. Obviously, a quick sack, too, came in. It looks like he can blitz as well as, I don't want to say as well as Trent McDuffie because he's done it year over year over year. But that was a McDuffie-esque blitz where he comes in and it takes down the quarterback. I mean, it was really impressive. You do wonder why he wasn't playing more earlier.
Yeah, physical, too. I mean, he's a press corner and also looks like he believes that defending the run is part of his job as a cornerback. It's not a Marcus Peters situation. I mean, he wants to be involved in the tackle. And by the way, the reason they loved Noel Williams was because of his skills with the football. Like he intercepted a ton of passes. That's a part of his game that hasn't come yet that I still think could. I agree with Jeff. I mean, he looks the part, and that should affect every decision you have about cornerback this offseason. And you have a lot of decisions about cornerback this offseason. I thought Brashard Smith looked like a piece, but not the piece in the backfield. Okay. And he does still need to gain some weight. I talked to him after the game, and he's already mapped out, this workout plan he's got and this nutrition plan he's got. So he knows that his objective this offseason is to gain some weight if he wants to have a more regular role in the backfield. But certainly when you went back and watched the film, he misses some opportunities, I think, but also he just has a burst to his speed that the Chiefs didn't have this year. He had more yards in the first quarter than any Chiefs running back had in the first quarter of any game all year. Yeah. Like, there's a burst to his game, especially on the play around the edge, to where it's like, I haven't seen a Chiefs running back have that kind of acceleration that quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought, we saw a guy who could identify the hole, something Isaiah Pacheco can't, get through the hole, something sometimes Kareem Hunt can't. It was by far his most impressive game, and he's got to get in the weight room. He's got to get bigger. He's got to get stronger, but he showed some toughness. He showed a willingness to try to, put his head down and move the pile a little bit. Showed pretty good balance, but I like the way you put it. I saw a guy who can be a part of the equation, not the answer necessarily, right? Does he trend more towards, I said, look, the ceiling, I'm not saying his running style is the same. I'm just saying the productivity. Ceiling is Damian Williams, right? Like if he, a couple,
that'd be great.
a stretch of a year, 7 games where the starting role is forced upon you, and you pump out 70 on the ground and 45 receiving with a touchdown, that kind of thing. I that's the ceiling. I could see that happening one day. Could he be the third down back? Yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, we saw that you can put him out there as a third down back and he can run you a draw. Okay. And he's not just immediately, it's not just touch football for him. But I really like the way he saw the hole. I mean, I'll say that. I thought that was an impressive part of the equation.
What about a Darren Sproles-like type guy role? He could be that. Like, that's what I was thinking. Like, who plays that kind of, who has that kind of speed in a small package?
I don't think he's got the. Yeah, I mean, I know you're not saying he's on that level. You're saying just like
could that be his role?
Yeah, I just think Sproles' elusiveness was just such an incredible level that I think it's hard to compare anyone to that.
He'll be 2 strides in front of Darren Sproles in a 40. Sproles 40 was nothing special, but it was a start, stop, left, right, quick elusiveness. But I think your point, Jeff, that would probably be, again, not doing it the way Sproles did. For anybody who's freaking out, we're not saying it's going to be like that, but the idea of being your primary kick returner, a third down back, that if you do hand it to him, he can still do something. If you had to put him in the game, if you got all the way down to him as your number 1 running back, yes, he can still run the football. Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, it's not going to look the way Sproles did it because he's 7 inches taller, right? He's 2 ticks faster on the 40. He doesn't have. Nobody had the. I mean, I'm trying to think who else had the jitterbug ability, the field mouse. He always looked like a field mouse to me, like running around out there. Like nobody had that, but him. But yeah, I think that's probably a good comp because I know they like him as a kick returner.
Yeah,
they loved him as a kick returner to open the season, and it took 15 weeks before he became the kick returner. I mean, I think that should be part of the Chiefs' lesson from the last 3 weeks. When you look at Esepole, whenever he had to insert the game in December. And then you look at Brashard Smith guess why these guys got better? They played.
Yes.
And the Chiefs refused to go to their young guys as early as they should have. And that cost them some growth. Where would Brashard Smith have been if he had played like that in week 8 or week 9? Where would he have been? He could have been a weapon for you late in the year when you were still alive in the playoffs, when you needed a guy like that, a burst like that out of the backfield.
Yeah, that's one of the things. John Calipari throws all the freshmen out there. Bill Self, you got to earn it to get out on the court. Which guy's doing it right? They both had great success. But I am with you. I mean, I think there is an element, and I'll come back. What the performance of a couple of those guys. Ashton Gelati didn't have particularly a great game in this one, but we've seen flashes from him. What would he have been had he played more? I mean, what were you for playing Derek Nottie? What were you for playing Charles Omenihu? And how much though that money collectively could have gone where if you hadn't spent it on them and you just played young players. If you trade down, if you acquire more picks and you just have more draft picks and you throw them out there. That's the lesson for me is that, Brett Veach with Andy Reid's blessing needs to be able to burn the boats. Like stop bringing the favorites back and send the most talented players out there and say, I know you wanted that safety, Steve, but you got this one. I know you wanted that defensive lineman, but you got this one. And let's go. And for Andy too, you're going to have to play Brashard Smith because that's what we got. Right. Like,
and that speaks to, to follow up on your point and cut you off, but there was an urgency and maybe even a desperation that this team needed that it never found. And when you have that, when you're looking at teams like Buffalo or Baltimore or even lesser teams like Atlanta, whoever, like they're looking at like, this guy's got to play. We need him. We need this. When they take people, they need them to do stuff. This team has been so good for so long. There's such a comfort level with knowing, Derek Nottie's fine. Nico Remigio's fine. It's that switch in mindset is going to be so crucial to whatever they become moving forward, because that was a big part of this season's outcome. And, we go back to week 1 and I would laugh at, there's no urgency. There's no, the guys are flat. Yeah, but they're flat because they've been winning for so long. They're content. They're comfortable. They don't worry about how can we develop these guys and get them going. Now that's a part of the equation.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. By the way, a couple of things I want to highlight here. Where was it? Somebody said, I don't know if this is true. Sproles 0-2 against Rockhurst. Might as well have a little crap talk around here if it's going to happen. I don't even know.
Was Sam alive?
I don't even know. I don't even know that could be true. Did Olathe North go cross state twice in the time that Darren Sproles was at Olathe North?
Well, I will say, Rockers would play anybody and everybody. They played teams across the
they
state
had
lines.
to because back then the Missouri teams wouldn't play them.
So I could see Gene Weir in that time playing.
Yeah, I can see it too.
Yeah, playing Rockers.
And I think this is a pretty good one from Dom. Remember the Chiefs wouldn't play Jamal Charles early? Yes, I do remember. Like they're playing the remains of Larry Johnson, and so yes, sometimes you just got to tell
Thomas. They were starting Thomas Jones.
Well, they comboed him up, but even before that, Larry Johnson was getting the ball over Jamal Charles, and then they brought Thomas Jones in with them. So I think there was a year before. I think Jamal's rookie year, or maybe it was even his second year. I have to go back, but he was comboed up. He was behind Larry Johnson. Then Larry Johnson went down, and then that's when they.
Was that Todd Haley? Then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Todd Haley.
I mean, he also benched Derek Johnson. I mean, there's
the brilliance. I can't believe that guy's not coaching.
We are criticizing the Chiefs for not evaluating S.A. Cole correctly. They didn't evaluate Jamal Charles and Derek Johnson correctly back in the day.
So the progress has been made.
The bar's been raised. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Travis Kelce's career, is it over, Jeff? Should it be over? If he wants to play, should it be in Kansas City? We've touched on this a little bit. What's a 36-year-old Kelce worth?
Oh, it depends on who wants him. I don't believe he's going to play for anybody outside of the Chiefs. I think it's either the Chiefs or he's not playing. And I don't believe he's going to play football again after this season. I know that he says all the right things, and I do believe he loves playing football. But, I don't think he would love doing this season again. And what he's coming back to is the reality. If he played again, there would be no guarantee of, we're going to be back in the playoffs or back in the championship game or Super Bowl. It's like you could be having a worse season. You could have more drop passes batted up in the air, leading to interceptions. Like he had some moments that, as well as he played, and he played better than I thought he was going to play, there were moments in there where he should have said, I'm not the same player I used to be. And do I really want to flirt with the idea of being out there, being a lesser version of that? I do believe the Chiefs would be wise to move on because they have bigger fish to fry, and he's not going to be a part of whatever success they have going forward. They're not winning the championship next year with this bunch. But more importantly, I do think that it's for him individually to leave on a season like this where you've shown you can still play. You got plenty of money. You got a wealthy-ass girlfriend, fiance. Your life is set. There's more reason for him to leave now than ever than to stick around playing football.
By the way, that will not even cover. Don says 1 more year at my salary. That won't even cover the insurance on his Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Okay, so that ain't going to get it done. We know that. Sam,
you guys we need some more subscribers to the podcast.
Tell your friends. You know what? If you own a business, advertise. We'll take it. Join the podcast. Yeah, absolutely. Then
Renee Brunetti.
Yeah, he's up there. He's in. He's late. Thanks for coming, Renee. We appreciate it. I'm like getting here on time.
Yeah.
No, but how about it? What do you think of where it sits right now? He did his comments. Most people are reading his comments from his podcast this week. Is at least no one's saying he's back, but saying it certainly sounds a lot more like he could be back than maybe most of us thought would be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to him after the game in the locker room, and look, there's one thing that's factually different than ever before, which he does not know that he's coming back. Last year, we didn't know he was coming back. He knew he was coming back. He knew after they lost the Super Bowl, he had that itch to play again, and he said this year he's going to have to take some time. That's already in a different spot than he's ever been before, which means the percentage chance of him coming back at this point compared to at this point in a year is lower than it's ever been before. I think he's most likely done. I think he really most likely went into this year thinking that this was going to be it. And I think the only thing that could pull him back is not wanting to go out 6-11 and having your last 3.5 games played with Chris Oladokun, Gardner Minshew, and Shane Buechele, and not having your last game be with the guy who has really bolstered your career and the reason that you hadn't enjoyed 3 Super Bowls, because Travis Kelce was a stud before Patrick Mahomes arrived, and he didn't have the rings to show for it. And he's great friends with Patrick Mahomes, and I think it bothers him, the fact that he didn't get to play with Patrick Mahomes. That relationship didn't end on the terms I think he anticipated. And if he leaves, neither would his terms of success end on the terms that that's the only thing I could think that has increased the percentage of him coming back maybe than when he entered the year. And I still put that percentage as less than 50%.
Yeah, you don't think his career should wrap up with Shane Buechele throwing his
don't.
final pass to him? You know how it started?
Career started with one snap on the field goal unit, and he got hurt. He was already hurt.
But do you know how whose first catch was? I heard this. I'm quoting Jason Anderson on this. So if it's wrong, blow up Jason Anderson for it. But I heard
2014 was it like Palco or
it was Tyler Bray. It began with Tyler
Right.
Bray, and it ended with Shane Buechele.
That had to be a preseason thing then.
I'm assuming Tyler Bray wasn't
what
in
I
the
was
first
thinking
game of
too,
14.
yeah.
But like his first catch in a Chiefs uniform was Tyler Bray. His last one was Shane Buechele.
If you use preseason, might as well use training camp, right? Rookie minicamp. Who threw over pass at rookie minicamp that year? Probably also Tyler Bray, actually.
I think it's
like
fairly
Chase Daniel.
I think it's fairly poetic. Look, he doesn't fit. I think these are the hard decisions that the Patriots made, was to move on from guys.
He's still their best receiver.
He is their best receiver.
Yeah.
I think. Listen, I would break it down into stages. Does he want to play? Okay, he says yes, he wants to play. What do you want to play? And can the Chiefs afford it? Right? Like you have to line those three dominoes have to fall in that order, right? For him to be wearing a Chiefs uniform. I mean, I think those are the stages. You don't run to how much you're going to give him.
You're missing a key element of this. What kind of shape are you in? Because we've seen the difference in the last 2 years. When he worked his ass off this last off season, it's why. I'm going to say I was wrong about something, which is how many times did I say you don't have bounce back seasons at 36 years old? He had a bounce back season at 36 years old. His yards per catch was at 5.9, better than his career yards after the catch per reception, 5.9, better than his career average, almost double what it was a year ago. His missed tackles forced were 3 times what they were a year ago. There's something in there, even if it's not what it's always been. The problem for the Chiefs is they need it. Like, they need Travis Kelce. That's a problem, that they still need Travis Kelce, and they haven't replaced his production since. He's their leading receiver this year.
I think there's an element of, is he their leading receiver because that's where Pat's more comfortable, and would he have pushed the ball to Tyquan Thornton more? Would he have pushed the ball to Hollywood Brown more? Would he have gone? Is it just too easy for Pat to check down? I mean, I think there is the element of everyone standing, it's basketball, stand around and watch the star take all the shots, or when he's out, okay, now let's run the offense. Now we all got to move. Now we all got to defend. Now we all got to do our thing. It's apples to oranges. I know it's a big stretch because football, is.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Tyquan Thornton, who got cut mid-year by a team that sucked. We're talking about Hollywood Brown, who signed for less than $10 million. Like, those are the go-to guys instead of Travis Kelce.
But it's not about having a go-to guy, right? Like, I don't think that's it. I mean, look, he was their leading receiver, and they sucked. So what? You give more money to him?
So you need to have other pieces to have replaced him by now. You don't. You
Agreed,
don't.
but I also think this is part of where schematically the offense has a problem. And I think I look, is there a place for him? Yes, but and he needs to be the number 3 option. And ideally, yes, you have 2 definitive, no doubt better options to go to. But I think he needs to be the number 3 option, even if they're not great players. You have to throw the football down the field more in the intermediate, not bombs, not this pull the pin and let's lob a grenade and see what happens. I mean, design plays that go further down the field, whether it's Patrick Mahomes just checking down to him or whether it's the offense catering to him. It doesn't work. And this is one where I would say it's burning the boats. Get rid of the Mike Danas and the Charles Omenahus and force C. Spagnuolo to play the younger defensive lineman. I think I don't know that this offense can move forward if Travis Kelce stays here.
Yeah,
I think the offense already stinks, and losing your best weapon doesn't help. If your argument is you've replaced him with the money, absolutely.
Well, I will ask you this:
Does having Travis Kelce help your offense versus just not having him?
Would you like what's a better team, Travis Kelce, or take Travis Kelce off the field and replace him with? We played this game before: Joey Bosa, Javonte Williams, and pick your $5 million wide receiver. Because he counted $19 million against the cap this year, and he took home $17+ million in cash.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my point is like there's a little bit of like, well, he's our best guy. Well, he ought to be. He's by far your highest paid guy. And so if your highest paid guy is netting $850 and $5, something's broke. So don't run it back to the same way you did it last year.
You can't pay the guy $19 million. But what's the answer to my question? If you have the same team, except for one has Travis Kelce and one does not, which team is better next year?
Which one's better? With the cap involved?
No, without the cap involved.
Well, it's the same question with Trent McDuffie. Then you don't trade Trent McDuffie either because you're
no.
Definitely
You're not even letting me complete. I answered your question. I played your game.
You're better. Yes, I agree. I am answering your question, and then I'm moving on to new business, which is if we're going to play that game, then there's no way you don't ever trade anybody. You don't ever move anything.
To me, that's where you start. Is okay. And now, what if I pay Travis Kelce $1 million? Still rather have Travis Kelce.
Yes.
And you continue to escalate up, and that's where you determine what is my break-even point on Travis Kelce. And it's I think less than half of what you paid him last year, probably. I think if you've got $7 million, you're better with Travis Kelce than you are without him. But again, the whole reason this is a conversation is the Chiefs have not replaced Travis Kelce, and they've had a lot of time to come up with another go-to weapon, whether that's a combination of guys. And I don't think Tyquan Thornton and Hollywood Brown is that answer.
Hold on.
You've had an opportunity to replace him, and you have.
Hold on. But that's in direct contrast to what you were talking about with playing the young players before. How do you know they haven't replaced them? They don't play the other guys. They play them in tandem. They'll put Noah Williams out on the field with Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce's never gone away. Trent McDuffie sat down.
Noah Gray?
No, who did I say?
You said Noah Williams, yeah.
I'm sorry, Noah Gray. But my point is, we found out about Noah Williams when Trent McDuffie sat down. So there is an element. Like, do I think Noah Gray is Travis Kelce? No. But could he be 75% of Travis Kelce?
No.
80, 85?
No.
Of what Travis Kelce is today?
No.
You don't think he can be 600 yards and 4 touchdowns?
80% of what Travis Kelce is?
He's 850 and 5.
I don't. No, I don't.
Okay.
No, you can find somebody else to be that, though, right? There's always, if he's not the guy, you can always. I mean, I get Sam's point here, which is that he's the best option you have, but I would side with Soren on this. Like, if he's your best option next year, you are hurting your development for the following years. At some point, you have to step away from him.
But you have to have those guys.
Yeah, well, that's a tough question to ask. I mean, to me, it's like
you can't get him with no picks and no cap room.
Yeah. Soren's a Lakers guy. It's like when Kareem was there at Showtime, it's like got thrown into Kareem skyhook, but they're better running for in the fast break, right? Got to be Magic and Byron Scott and Worthy. He's got to be your Kareem guy now. Just hustle up and do a few things.
I totally agree that Travis Kelce should not be your number one option, and I continue to say the problem is he is. They don't have a better option than him right now.
But it's also January 7th, right?
This is a 2026 problem created in 2022, 2023, and 2024.
Yeah, but I think the part that I think where this stumbles is, will you acknowledge that they may never get there as long as he's on the roster? I don't think they ever get to moving beyond him as long as he's on the roster. I think the personality's too big in the locker room. Yeah. I think, there's Trav. We got to get Trav the ball. I think there's an element of Pat needs to lose Trav to go be the best Pat that Pat can be.
Yeah. I think that's an assumption that's based on a hypothetical because we haven't seen them in that situation. He is their best option.
Every cut is a hypothetical. I come back to.
It's not. He is their best option is not a hypothetical. He is. That's reality.
Do you want to trade Trent McDuffie? Do you think they need to trade Trent McDuffie?
Yes.
Well, then that's a hypothetical.
It's not. That's based on that doesn't make any sense. No.
All right, I'll just.
But here's a better question: is it worth betting on a 37-year-old tight end repeating the same performance and staying healthy for the tight end?
It's not. So It wasn't worth banking on a 35-year-old tight end staying healthy and producing. It's why they should have tried to replace him while he was on the roster. Still, I wrote this article 3 years ago. Replace Travis Kelce while he's still Travis Kelce, because then the transition is easier. Now the Chiefs are stuck in this position when Travis Kelce leaves. What is going to happen when Travis Kelce leaves? They don't have anyone to replace him.
And you were right at that point, but it doesn't matter. There's no time machine. You got to make your decision now. And so it to me, it's time to move on. Like, it's time to move on from this topic. We'll get to Andy Reid and his coaching staff. Talk about that. Where is it going? Is he just locked in on all the familiar guys? We will do it after you hear from our friends at Frontier Justice.
This episode of Red, Gold, and Bold is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk about Andy Reid. Sam, you questioned him this week about it looking like Matt Nagy's moving on. I think there's a general consensus that he's either going to get the Titan job. He's interviewing for 2 other jobs as well. At least that was the last time I looked. He was scheduled for at least 3 interviews.
Raiders and Cardinals, yeah.
Yeah, and now, I think the consensus is that he's going to go someplace else go be a play caller, go get that. Like, that being in the Andy Reid shadow isn't helping him if he doesn't land a head coaching job. So he'll be looking to move on. So most people think he's going to be out. You put it to him. How'd you put it? Like, basically, you want someone familiar or fresh blood?
Yeah, and his answer was that he already knows people. And look, I think it's there's smart people in that Chiefs building who are not OCs. I mean, he mentioned Joe Blair by name, really, really smart guy. He knows smart people who are outside the building who have coached on the staff before. I think people can get caught up in thinking when something goes wrong that everyone in that building sucks. And no one in that building knows what they're doing. No one in that building knows how to coach or call plays. Like, that's wrong. So I don't think that there's any issue with having somebody familiar be OC, but you need to have new ideas somewhere in your building. It doesn't have to be at the guy in charge of calling plays. It just needs to be somewhere. I don't think it'd be a bad idea if they had somebody designing the running game. Like, Joe Blameyer's job right now is a pass game coordinator. What about a run game coordinator? Somebody who gives you a different flavor of how to run the football.
That's they usually credit that towards Andy Heck.
Yeah, they do. He's mostly in charge of the running game, to your point. So I think you can have fresh ideas in your building, even if it's not the OC. I just don't know if I necessarily saw that. And by the way, we've got comments like hating on Matt Nagy, hate on Joe Blameyer. You know nothing about what goes on in that building if that's what you think the Chiefs' offensive problem is. Why are 3 teams interviewing Matt Nagy for head coaching jobs? If he's such an idiot, if he's so bad at his job, doesn't know a thing about football, there's a reason this guy is getting a second look as a potential head coach. Like, he is a smart coach, and that doesn't always mean that things come together. And I also think that people should look at who's actually calling the plays. Why does Matt Nagy want a job as a play caller? Because he has one here?
No, because he doesn't. Exactly. And I think, like, let's talk about that, Jeff. Is that, I think Matt Nagy's moving on. I think that die is already cast. I don't think there's any coming back.
Yes.
But as they move forward, does that need to be, is that where the change needs to be? Like, Andy needs to be more CEO, less calling the plays. You can design the offense. You can help put together the menu, the play sheet, but the guy who's doing it needs to be somebody different. Is that part of whatever they do and make this change? Should the OC be the guy that's calling the plays? Is that part of what it is? Or, I remember when we used to talk about Andy Reid calling plays was a problem back before he won Super Bowls. And this was a big recurring theme. They started winning championships, and we haven't talked about it till their next losing season. But, so it didn't seem to be a problem when they were winning. But is it a problem now? He is getting older. Should he be looking to hand those duties off?
Yeah, I think he should, or at least be open to new voices. And look, I understand, look, when you get older, you want to have things around people around you who know you and you want to be comfortable. But I think discomfort creates growth. And when you have people in there who are bringing in new ideas or challenge you in ways that you haven't been challenged, it can help you prosper in ways that Andy Reid needs to prosper. And he doesn't have to apologize for anything he's done in his career. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's done phenomenal things, but he also came up under Mike Holmgren, who was never giving up his play calling duties. You know, he played football for Lavelle Edwards and BYU, who was one of the biggest offensive masterminds in college football history. I mean, this is how he wants to roll, as he likes to say. But I do think it would help him to have new concepts come in, because just listening to the press conferences and then the way that, the way that people responded to the way he responded to some of the questions, it felt like it was more like, we'll just tweak some stuff and be right back at it. It wasn't, he made a comment about the run game being better, but it felt like it was more of, we're not going to make wholesale changes and do all these wild things to get better. We're just going to double down on what we've been doing and just find a way to make it better. And I think that's a mistake. There's a lot of, as far as Nagy goes, I wish Andy would do more of saying, I'm the one calling the plays. I'm the one involved. I'm the one, blame me if it's not good. Blame me, give me credit if it's bad. When Dan Campbell was calling the plays in Detroit, there was no question. Give me the big sheet. John Morton's over here. I'm calling the plays. It's that simple. That does bother me, the way he treats crap on Nagy and Bieniemy, that they don't deserve that.
Yeah.
I think the problem is he does it too much. And so, like, if it's like the boy who cried wolf after every game, when the coach says it's on me, I take responsibility, those words carry less weight.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think if he never had said, hey, I got to do better as a coach, it starts with me. If he rarely did that, then came out and said, by the way, guys, I'm the one calling the plays. This is on. Then it would be like, okay. There was a time and remember it was in 2017, the year they blew the game to the Titans in the playoffs. Late in that year, Matt Nagy was calling the plays, because remember they collapsed midway through the year. Then suddenly Matt Nagy was calling the plays after that Titans game in the first half. They destroyed the Titans in the first half, collapsed in the second half. I remember Andy Reid being asked who called the plays. Well, he called the good ones and I called the bad ones. Any other time you that sounds great. It sounds like you're taking responsibility for everything. And I recognize his rationale for doing that. Hey, keep the target on me. But then sometimes when the target should be on you, it carries less weight, because you're always saying that the target should be on you. And I agree with Jeff's point on that.
I think Matt Nagy called the plays in the last game, maybe the last two of this year. I think most of the time when he said Doug Peterson was calling the plays, I don't believe Doug Peterson was calling the plays. In fact, I have more than just wonderment to go on to think that was the case, that he said it to just, get his guy a look at a head coaching job. Yeah. And when that happens, you kind of get the vibe on that's what's going on. So, yeah, I'm with you. Listen, Matt Nagy, it doesn't matter what we're saying here. Like Sam, you laid down the nuts on, as to use a poker term. Like, 3 teams are interviewing him. It's not because he's a dunce. All right. And so, like, he knows what he's doing coaching wise. And I think it's also like, listen, I think we can draw from that. If he gets a head coaching job, we can't really draw anything. If he goes someplace else to be the offensive coordinator and call the plays, you can frame it that, like, one, he just wants to get a head coaching job, but you can also be like, well, I think I can do this better. Right? It would mean that he doesn't agree necessarily with everything that's going on. He thinks he's got a better way to do it, and he's not able to do it. And I think that's everybody. You name me anyone who thinks that their boss has got it all figured out, and boy, I just do whatever he tells them. Everybody thinks the old man upstairs is kind of half-assed, or like, that's just human nature of anybody who's competitive and driven. So whether it's true or not, I would want every OC to think that they can do it better than the head coach. Otherwise, they're not going to be the best offensive coordinator they could be. And so, yeah, I think, look, like I said, he's very well respected in the league, and I don't think he's going to have a problem getting a job. And if he doesn't get a head coaching job, he will be calling plays for somebody next year. And we'll see how he does. The proof will be in the pudding. But I want to, Connor Embry being out. So, and we feel confident Matt Nagy's not going to be back in one way or another. Tell me, what happens? Like, is that it? Is that the coaching? Because I don't think that's it. I think number one, you've already got. I think clearly the running back coach is going to go back to coaching wideouts. Todd Pinkston's going to move to wideout. Would be my guess. Or Todd Pinkston's not going to be back either. Who else is out? Does Andy Heck get it?
I always thought by far the most likely position coaches to change over wide receiver and running back. And other than that, you're talking wild cards. I think you're talking. I mean, other guys get other jobs. Let's face it. I'm just going to be honest about this. Clark Hunt doesn't pay his assistant coaches as much as some other teams pay him. Sometimes you get guys who move on because they want to get paid more. And so I think. But as far as like the head coach wanting change, I think it's going to come at running back and wide receivers.
You think that'll be it?
For what the head coach demands, yes. But like I said, there's always other change that is less foreseen for other reasons, and coaching staffs, I think, could be the case.
Okay.
And you also have to, after a season like this, you have to put a spike on a head somewhere, right? A hit on a spike somewhere. And so I agree with him. I think you start getting into the Andy Hecks, the Dave Tobes, people like that. Like Andy ain't letting go of those guys easily. Like he's going to protect those people.
Let me run this by you. For like we always talk about, like part of the reasons why guys like Steve Spagnuolo and Matt Nagy don't get hired, or Eric Bieniemy's, they're playing all the way into the Super Bowl and all the head coaching jobs are already hired, right? Like that, it makes it tough when you go all the way to the Super Bowl. We've seen it time and time again, whether they deserved it or not. But Romeo Crennel and Charlie Weiss, every year in the Super Bowl, it was tough to go interview for the jobs, right? We all agree with that it is a bit of a hindrance when your team goes all the way to get a head coaching job, right?
Kellen Moore did all right last year.
Okay, but as a rule of thumb, we would agree with that.
It hurts. Yeah, it hurts.
I would want my coach to be as focused as he could possibly be on the games at hand.
Right,
yes.
right. But just also teams, like do you think, how many of these jobs that are open now, there are 7 jobs open right now, how many will be filled before the conference championship game? How many will be filled before the Super Bowl? I think most of them, if not all.
They did change the rules this year about timings of when you're going to interview. That mixes up a little bit.
That is true. But okay, that is a good point. But up till now, right? Like on a normal year, 6 of the 7 would be done before the Super Bowl. All of them would be done. My point to that is, and when those are hired, so go all the assistants. So I think this year's unique when we talk about what assistants might go on either side of the ball, because the Chiefs have always been, by the time they're done, because if you did want to make a change at running back coach or wide receiver coach, you can't do it going into the conference championship game. And so when all these other head coaches are hired, they're grabbing every good assistant coach. And so by the time the Chiefs get to the point where they can go, okay, we want to make a change at wide receiver coach. They may have wanted to change over Embry for 3 years, right? What hot candidate wide receiver coach was sitting out there by the time they're done playing? Colleges have hired everybody. Everything is done by the time they got there. So I do think, listen, this might be the only change. But I think if it is, then we know that Andy Reid just wants his guys, because they at least have the opportunity to make change this year, more so than they have for years gone by, correct?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so I think this will be pretty telling. The Ravens did move on from John Harbaugh. Jeff, is there a lesson to be learned there about the Chiefs aren't moving on from Andy Reid? It's the first time he hadn't been in a conference championship game in 7 years. So the suggestion is not, look, the Ravens moved on. They should go. We know John, this is the second time in 5 years he hadn't made the playoffs. For a lot of teams, that'd be great, but for the Ravens is a problem. He's only been by the divisional round once since he won the Super Bowl, and there's frustration between him and the quarterback. So we get why they're moving on. But is there something to be learned from that by the Kansas City Chiefs and how things sit right now with Andy Reid?
Well, I think every coach has an expiration date, and he was there for 18 years, which is longer than Andy Reid's been anywhere. We all know he coached under Andy. I think that what Harbaugh, and he's a different kind of coach. He doesn't call plays. He's not a defensive guy or an offensive guy. He's CEO type dude. But yeah, you stay at any place long enough, as we're seeing here this season, your ideas are going to get stale. Andy Reid his voice still resonates in this locker room. Jim Harbaugh didn't have that same benefit with this team this year. I don't think he was at odds with Lamar Jackson. I think he's always kind of been in Lamar Jackson's corner. I think Monken, the OC, was at odds, and I think Lamar didn't like that because he was a Harbaugh hire. But ultimately, yeah, it's very hard to sustain a long run as a head coach with any franchise. Al Davis, who I covered my first year covering the NFL back in 1996, once told me 10 years is about it for a head coach. And then it's going to get old because these guys are tuning you out. They make too much money. That's a very strong little locker room they have in Baltimore. And when you have a quarterback who gets frustrated, it does get hard. And the cautionary tale for the Chiefs is, trust me, if Andy Reid is 6-11, 7-10 next year, there's going to be a lot of talk about how long should he be doing this job moving forward. And I guarantee you, they start asking questions to the quarterback in a press conference setting like they asked Lamar Jackson the other day. Mahomes may not be as complimentary as he's been in the past of Andy Reid. So, don't think this can't happen again is the lesson to be learned here.
I think the Ravens have been close to – I think they were close when they won the Super Bowl to moving on from John Harbaugh. But Lamar Jackson sealed the fate. He either knew that it was already done or he knew he could end it. When they asked him where he at, he's like, I don't talk to me about that. We just lost a game. Like, dude, you're saying everything you need to say. Yeah. I said it earlier. The only guy who can fire Andy Reid is Patrick Mahomes. And I think it would be with a press conference like that after a bad season. If Patrick Mahomes makes it clear he's not my guy, John Elway did it to Dan Reeves. I do think Lamar Jackson played a role. They want to sign him to a contract. They need to sign him to a contract to move back some money on Lamar Jackson's deal. The Chiefs need to do that with Patrick Mahomes right now. And if he sat there at the podium is like, yeah, well, hey, listen, I'm not, I'm just worried about getting rehabbed, or, if he comes out this next week whenever they make him available and that's the way he talks, Andy Reid will be in some trouble. I think that's one thing. That's one lesson I take from it is Reid needs to be on the same page with Patrick Mahomes. Sam, what do you take from it?
Yeah, I mean, I also think Lamar had to play a role in John Harbaugh, because even if, let's say, he abstained, which that basically
I think that's more what it was.
He could have played the other role, is what I'm saying. Like he could have said, "This is my guy," and the Ravens would be like, "All right, we don't want this relationship to go sideways." And so it told me that Lamar Jackson, at the very least, was perfectly fine with moving on from John Harbaugh, and more than likely, my guess is he's pretty happy with it. And this is the interesting thing about when your quarterback drives these decisions is how much does he drive the next decision? Because now the Ravens are not exactly – their job is unique when you look at the other job openings in the league. You have a lot of teams rebuilding, a lot of teams in not great cap position that are – people I think Atlanta's a good job, good owner, terrible cap situation, terrible quarterback situation. Ravens got the quarterback figured out, and I think that should be an attractive job, but how much is Lamar going to have a say over who's the next head coach? Because, I mean, the Ravens have had good people in their building move on. Mike McDowell could be the coach of the year next year, and that was 2 years ago that he was on the Ravens staff.
Yeah, and I guess to clarify what I'm saying about Harbaugh, I think, I agree Lamar could have defended him better, but the way I understand it, I think that there was frustration with Monken and with Zach Orr. And when you're the CEO, you don't have that daily contact with those people, with those players. And so you get blamed for that. And so I think he was like, I think Lamar was speaking for the whole locker room and saying, this ain't working anymore with these people, which is why having a Connor Embry around too long, or a Todd Pinkston coaching running backs, like players pick up on that stuff. Like, what was it, the story with the Raiders, where they were, Ashton Genty and Geno Smith were having private meetings with players to try to get the blocking schemes figured out because they didn't trust Pete Carroll's son to get it right, who was the offensive line coach. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. And if you aren't, the lesson for Andy, again, is if you're not connected enough, if you just think, we'll just, whatever, clean things up and these penalties don't matter, these guys are paying attention. And they will turn on you in a heartbeat. Don't think for a second that there's probably 2 or 3 guys who are no-brainers, are always going to be in your corner, but most of these guys, the Rashee Rices and people like that, they're going to turn on you in a heartbeat. The Marcus Peters of the world, good luck.
By the way, when you saw how it ended in New England with Bill Belichick employing 2 of his kids, see how it's going in North Carolina with Belichick employing his kid. Like, as an owner, when he's like, I'm going to hire my son, like, didn't that set off a bit of a warning bell, shouldn't it? But I can't believe it didn't work in Vegas when you hear that's how things were going. A stunning turn of events that it didn't work. That you mean Pete Carroll was in it? Was just in it for a cash grab? Come on, you gotta be kidding me. Wow, yeah, interesting.
Was that on your show? You were talking about Jim Gray and the leverage he was wielding.
Yeah. Guys in Vegas, he walks around there like he's a member of the organization.
Yeah, crazy story. Real quick, I was at the Broncos Raiders game in the tunnel, getting ready to go out before the game, and they rolled in with this big ass,
This year?
This year, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And a big van rolls in like before the game starts. Mark Davis jumps out. I don't think Brady was there, but Jim Gray jumped out. I was like, why is Jim Gray here in this van with all these? Now I know. And the funny part about it was they fucked up the parking of the van, so they couldn't get it in and out. It was like a Austin Powers thing. This is so Raiders like trying to roll with his ballers, and they get the van stuck in the tunnel.
Again, how does this not work? I don't get it. How does this not work? Listen, like we said earlier, you can support the Red, Gold, and Bold by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. For more than 30 years, they've been Kansas City's go-to full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. They serve the entire greater Kansas City area. You got any questions, any problems with your parking lot? Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com and our friends at Frontier Justice and Lee Summit. KCK, Jenks, Oklahoma. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, expert staff, they've got them ready to help you out. Top-tier gear, strong sense of community. It's at Frontier Justice. Find them online at frontier-justice.com. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold Podcast.